Hey, this is Sasha. Thanks for joining me in today's video. And what I want to share with you today is the high costs when it comes to medical procedures in the United States and what you could do about it if you have a high expensive bill coming in. So here's a comment I found here on the web that somebody was asking about medical procedures. And we're going to talk about a dental procedure and what you could do beyond just the general ideas to think outside the box when it comes to your personal finances. So stay tuned. All right, so here's the basic question that I found is basically I've had some medical problems in the past and right now I get a stipend that covers some of my rent and other bills. This month I had a chance to visit the dentist the first time in over a decade. I have very basic insurance, but they recommend over $9,200 of dental work. I need it done and it isn't covered by my insurance company. I need some resources and thoughts on what I can do. I'm lost here. They did say they have a payment plan and financing which breaks up my payments into 12 installments, but I still don't think I have that kind of cash. Any ideas? So one of the things I want to mention to you is that when it comes to medical costs, they start to rack up pretty quick when you get specifics into these specialized areas like maybe dental. And in these dental world areas, because a lot of them are not, let's say, life-threatening, up until you get to a certain point. But when you go into the things like heart surgery and those kinds of things, maybe those you want to be a little more cautious about. But one of the things that has been booming over the last decade, especially for people in the United States, has been medical tourism. And that's what I want to share with you here. Healthcare tourism in Costa Rica. So I put up Costa Rica because Costa Rica is now a top medical tourism destination. And the Ministry of Tourism recently announced that medical tourism accounted 6 to 8% of the total tourists who enter the country each year. Now, at the moment, we're in the coronavirus world. Those things may be slowing down. But my point is that this is not anything new. It's just maybe something new that you haven't thought about. And for a procedure that may be $200, $500, it may not be worth it. But on the other hand, if you're already traveling to that country and you've been thinking about getting a procedure done and it's not covered by insurance, it may be something to consider. I know personally some family members and other people that we have connections with and friends that have done things in their home countries just because it's cheaper than doing it in the United States. When you really look at things, medical tourism, there's a lot of articles about it. People are ditching US healthcare and flying to other countries. June 5th, here's a vlogger that said she saved a lot abroad on dental. Every year, millions of Americans, they travel and leave the country to save money on exorbitant medications and surgeries. So this is known as that medical tourism, as I mentioned. And, a lot of times they say that the quality is comparable or even sometimes superior to the US. So if you're wondering about quality, it's right up there. As long as you do your research, you do your due diligence, and so on. Of course, there are some guidelines you should be aware of. Here's some things from the CDC. There are some risks, so communication could be a problem. Also, medication, some of that could be counterfeit or a little more poor country. So if you're getting, who knows, maybe things like Novocaine and numbing agents, it may not be as good and you might feel the pain a little more. Antibiotic resistance is a global problem, and the resistance bacteria may be more common in other countries. And also flying after surgery could be a little problem. So if you're getting, let's say, a hip replaced, then you got to fly right after, may not be kind of the wisest decision. However, this is a huge thought and thing you need to think about. So if you're looking at something like, $9,000 worth of work, here's what I want to share with you, a little breakdown of what I was looking at. Was that basically if you're looking to do something in Costa Rica, between looking at flights, the stay, maybe food and some extras, instead of paying around $9,200, you might pay, and here's a dental procedure that I looked up, was basically $459, and I multiplied it times 6, I got $2,754, versus in the United States, that procedure was costing around $1,480 to give us around $9,000. So your total on doing something, let's say in Costa Rica, would be around $4,054 versus in the US, you're looking at around $8,800. So you save about 50%. So here's what I did in order to get this breakdown. So check this out. Okay, so here's the price from Costa Rica Dental Guide. If you go ahead and look things up, I mean, of course, you could do more specific research as far as your exact procedure and looking up what exact implants you need or dental veneers or crowns or whatever. But take the procedure that you're looking for. Again, I may not want to do something like this when it comes to heart surgery or something like that, but something that may be a little more cosmetic or something like a crown, that could be something a little more worthwhile. So I took a look at this one right here. Here's a crown solid porcelain, $459 here in Costa Rica average. And you look at basically the one in the US on average, you're looking at $1,480, almost $1,500. So that's why I went ahead and I just multiplied these figures to get about that $9,000 mark. So if you need about 6 of them, you got really bad teeth, you'll pay around $2,700 just for the procedure in Costa Rica, or your total cost with the trip, with flights, with everything, $4,000. Whereas when you look at the US, you're looking at almost $9,000. And if you've got interest here in payments, that could be $10,000 in total. So remember, don't just think, hey, this is it. You might have payments in here. Now, in this case, yes, you do have some additional risks as we talked about, but you also don't have payments, but you also will need the cash to be able to pay it pretty much upfront. So as we take a look at this, you could go ahead and explore some flights. So I went ahead and did that. I budgeted about $600 for flights. Right now you could get one for $454, but some flights are a little bit more, like let's say $680 or $665. So I budgeted around $600 because I did find one for $454 round trip. You could look at some stays. So here's some stays in Costa Rica, and you could do Airbnb. So there's some cheaper areas. If you want to be really, really frugal, you could do things, hey, maybe about $20 a night for, multiple nights, because you'll need to be there probably for a handful of nights between doing things. You might do some tourism there as well. And this one's $30 a night, and you got $27 a night. So you could find some things that are a bit cheaper if you want. And of course, you could go to bigger hotels that are about $40 a night or about $250. So again, it just depends how cheap you want to get into it. And really, when you look at this, the whole point behind this is really the US is one of the most expensive when it comes to healthcare costs. When you start looking and reading some of these articles and studies, even from Harvard here, the US spends more on healthcare than all other wealthy democracies in the world. But the US lags that of its life expectancy. Americans just struggle paying for healthcare. Here's one from Johns Hopkins, U.S. Healthcare highest among developed countries. So there's just a lot of waste when it comes to the healthcare in the U.S. A lot of that gets wasted through insurance companies, and then doctors jack up the premiums, and so on and so on and so on. It becomes a cycle where lawsuits happen as well, and that all creates more expensive healthcare costs for everybody in the US. So this is why medical tourism has become more popular over the years. And there's a lot of different countries that you could go to. I chose here Costa Rica because it's fairly close right here from Atlanta to San Jose. But there's others that you could probably choose that might be a little bit of a better fit for you personally. But it's something that I want to share with you because it's something that you don't want to rule out if it's something that you need done, especially a bigger procedures. Or let's say you're international anyway. Let's say you're from Europe maybe, and you're going to visit your family in Europe. It might be something to consider that, hey, while I'm in Europe, I'll go ahead and do a procedure done. Now, not every tourist thinks of it that way, but I know that a lot of Europeans that do come here and go back and forth, oftentimes they actually do these things. They combine maybe a medical trip along with a tourism trip or see the family trip. I know some Hungarians that have done that, Germans that have done that. So depending in the countries you are in, a lot of people that do that, but they also, of course, speak the language. So the communication gap and barrier is not there. For you, you have to take those things into consideration along with some of those other risks. But anyways, open up your mind about these, because as you start doing these kinds of thoughts and processes of opening up the mind, opening it up to other possibilities, which, maybe it's not, you're not looking for medical tourism, but something else where you could save 50% on medical costs. But let's say you've done this over your lifetime and, now your medical costs are at $50,000 or $200,000. And think about it. You could save or could have saved over your lifetime maybe $100,000. Maybe it wouldn't be 50% all of the time. Maybe you only saved $80,000, but still that's $80,000 that you could have invested and put money elsewhere. So that's what I wanted you to really think about, is to just open up your mind about it. I know for some people this is a definite no. For other people this might be, hey, this is something that might be interesting to consider depending on your situation. So again, it's just about opening up your mind to what you could do in the world, because right now we live in a global economy where things are interconnected, and it's a lot easier to travel as long as there's no country lockdowns and coronavirus things going on. You should be fine in the future to be able to continue the medical tourism if you so choose to do so. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me. If you want to check out some of the great freebies that I have available on my website, go ahead and click the link right over here. And there's a lot of mini guides, courses, PDFs, checklists, and much more. Or subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're brand new. All right, thanks for joining me, and enjoy the rest of the day ahead.